Hi and welcome to another video. If you are new here, my name is Allie and I'm a 22-year-old mom to my 10-month-old son, Gray. And today I wanted to talk to you all about 10 things I wish I knew before having a baby. So let's get started.
Missing someone.
So there are so many things I wish I had known or that someone had told me before I had a baby, and of course I did a ton of research and looked into a lot of things, but there's some stuff you just don't know until you live through it. So I guess one of the first things, at least in my experience, is labor, delivery, and postpartum. It's bad and it's hard, but none of it was as bad or as hard as I expected it to be. Everywhere I looked on the internet, there was people saying just how painful it was, how difficult and how scary it was, and for me that was just not the case. I don't want to downplay the seriousness and the effort of childbirth, but I feel like I just heard all these horror stories, and if you have a healthy and non-problematic birth and pregnancy, I feel as if there's not a ton to worry about besides, obviously the health of you and your baby. And I got an epidural and I had a really great birth experience. Postpartum, I felt pretty good too. I would say, in my honest opinion, the hardest part of postpartum, this is so TMI, but someone's gotta tell you, is pooping afterward. I was so scared to poop and that it would hurt so bad. I literally took stool softeners for 2 weeks postpartum, and just because I didn't want to risk it. So that's a big piece of advice, actually. Take stool softeners. They gave them to me in the hospital and then I just kept taking until I thought I'd be good. Second thing, breastfeeding. I don't want to undermine anyone else's breastfeeding journey, but for me, breastfeeding also was not as bad as everyone made out to be. I had just been in my head, I was I really want to breastfeed, but if I can't do it and it's too hard, I accept that, but I really want to give it my best shot. And I just thought it was something I'd really struggle with. And I'm not saying it's easy, because it's really not easy and it takes you a long time to get the hang of it, but I thought it was something I wouldn't be able to do. But it is so doable, and I understand there's a lot of reasons why people aren't able to, but if you are and it's painful and you're feeling like you can't do it, push through it, and I promise it gets better. We're 10 months out and it's so easy now, and I would so prefer it over washing bottles. One thing I did wish I knew in terms of breastfeeding though is just how important it is to regulate your supply in the beginning. I had an idea, but I didn't truly know how crucial that is. You need to make sure you're regularly feeding in order to, it's a supply and demand thing. So the more your baby eats, the more you'll produce. And while he was eating a ton in the beginning, as the months went on, to 1 and 2 months postpartum, my milk supply started to drop off, and I think it's because I wasn't feeding as consistently as I should have been. I mean, this is just my theory. My supply could have dropped for a variety of reasons, but I feel like it's hard once you're past kind of that newborn stage to just build your supply a lot. So I kind of wish I had done a little more pumping in the beginning, not too much just where you have an oversupply, but I wish I had just thought about that more, because it's a lot harder once your supply is low to try to keep up with it. I also wish that I had built a bigger freezer stash. I did have a Haka. I'll insert a picture if you have no clue what I'm talking about, which I definitely would recommend getting. I don't use it now, but in newborn days you get a lot of use out of it, and I wish I just would have used this more to catch the excess milk and freeze it, because it really helps to have a freezer stash. So when you need to go somewhere, or even if you need to get some extra sleep in, someone else can feed your baby for you and you don't have to worry about it. Last thing about breastfeeding is, if you are having a problem, do not hesitate to reach out to a lactation consultant. I didn't see one in the hospital, which I was supposed to, and I didn't end up seeing one until I was having a supply problem. I thought I was having an oversupply because he kept on pulling off of me, and I thought that just meant it was too fast and too much, but in reality he was losing interest and he was frustrated. That's why he was pulling off. I never would have known that I had low supply if I hadn't done that, and they were really great, and they taught me some things about pumping and how to help my supply, so I definitely would recommend that too. Number 3, when you have a baby, your loved ones will want to help you. So let them help you in whatever way that works for you. And that could even mean you telling them explicitly what you need from them, because they want to help you, but they don't know what's helpful unless you tell them. If that is bringing meals so you don't have to worry about dinner. I'm lucky, and when Greyson was born, my mom and dad were around so they could help me out, and like my mom could make meals, but I did have friends bring meals over too. Let people bring you over coffee or tea or whatever you need, because I guarantee people want to help you and people want to meet your baby and they want to see how you're doing. To that same merit, if you are not up for company, make sure to set those boundaries too, because obviously you want all your friends and your family to meet your baby, but if you're exhausted, like, you're not going to have a good time, and they're probably going to sense that you're not really feeling it, so make sure to set boundaries as far as that goes too. Okay, 4. Sleep has been a big part of my motherhood experience, and what I wish I would have known is that you will not really get a lot of sleep for the first 6 months, and you should not expect to. I know that sounds horrible, but at the same time, you need to realize that it's a phase and it's not going to be forever. You will sleep again. Like, not as much as you used to before baby, but you will sleep, and it's not going to be like this forever. I kind of felt, it also really depends on the baby. I found that some babies are super good sleepers just by themselves, whereas others struggle a little more, and Greyson was one of those babies who struggled a little more. From the time he was born to pretty much 6 months, he never slept longer than a 2-hour stretch, like maybe sometimes 3. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. And this was a big stressor for me. Besides just feeling tired, I was like obsessing over why he wasn't sleeping, thinking it was something I was doing, which that just makes it 100% worse. And just in your mind, you need to realize your baby is not going to sleep, and if they do, you're really lucky, but they're not going to sleep, and it's not your fault. There's nothing you can do. It's a developmental thing. Their days and nights aren't mixed up. It's just how they are. They're newborns, and you can't expect them to be able to go those long stretches. First of all, like, they need to eat. Second of all, they don't know how to connect their sleep cycles independently, and they're not in an age they can do that until they're about 6 months. You just need to do whatever you need to do to get through that period, whether it be taking naps when the baby naps, which I'm not a big napper, so that didn't work for me, or whether it's taking shifts during the night, or maybe it's just drinking extra coffee. That's what I did in my experience. You just got to do whatever you have to do to get through those 6 months. If you are looking for sleep resources, I would highly recommend checking out Taking Care of Babies on Instagram. She's really great. I'm thinking about making a video in the future about my experiences with sleep training, because it has been a really big part of something I've struggled with as a mom. My tip number 4 is don't stress so much about being productive. I know your pre-baby life, you were just, it's all about, checking off stuff on that list and getting stuff done. And you kind of have to mentally adjust your mindset and realize that you're not going to be as productive as you were before, because even though it doesn't feel productive, being a mom is now your number 1 job and taking care of them. And so even if you've done nothing all day except keep your little human alive and love them, then that's a good and productive day. That said, I know sometimes you have responsibilities and you have stuff you need to do, and you can't just let those things slide. So what I wish I would have done earlier on, especially in the teeny tiny newborn days, was baby wear more. That way you can get in your baby snuggles, especially like when your baby won't let you set them down to sleep, and you can still get done what you need to do. Like, you can get ready, you can feel good. And when you have a newborn, they sleep like every 60 minutes. Instead of, spending a lot of time trying to get them down in their crib, when you can just strap them onto you and they can be lovey and all natural and cuddly with you, I think that's a great option. Originally, I bought this Moby wrap. I'll insert a picture where you're supposed to tie and wrap them on you, and it was so confusing. Me and my mom could not figure it out. We hated it. We got rid of it. We were like, this thing is the worst. I don't get the hype. But then we bought a baby Bjorn, I think I'm saying that wrong, where you can like strap them in, and that was a lot easier, and I did really like that. We still use it, but now it just hurts my back a lot because he is so much bigger, but it is super useful. One thing I wish I had looked into before was a ring sling. I'm hoping it would be easier to use than the Moby wrap, but I feel like that would be a good option as well. Number 6 is food and feeding your baby. This was something that was also a big stressor for me, and it is because the doctor told us there's kind of 2 trains of thoughts. You can start feeding them at 4 months, and you can give them purees and baby food, or you can start at 6 months and kind of do this baby-led weaning thing where you feed them pretty much bite-sized versions of what you're eating. And I was kind of torn, but we were also kind of excited to start exposing him to food. And so via our doctor's recommendation, we started him at 4 months with like mashed stuff, and he really didn't respond well to it. Everything we gave him, he just made the grossest face, and which is normal. Like, your baby will pretty much dislike everything you give them in the beginning. That was at least my experience with Greyson. And it was making me feel discouraged. I was like, oh my gosh, is he just gonna be such a picky eater? I'm not prepared for that. But in truth, Greyson just wasn't ready for food at 4 months. Like, it seemed to upset him, and he's a pretty happy baby. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna take a break. This is stressing me out. It's obviously stressing him out. We're gonna try again later. Then around 6 months, we decided to try again, and we kind of took the baby-led weaning approach, where we would just give him like a little piece of an avocado he could hold and bite on, or a banana peel. I'll insert some video footage. And he did so much better. It still was an adjustment for him to get used to all those new tastes, but now he eats pretty much everything we give him, and he feeds himself, and he loves it. If you are a new mom and your baby is not eating, don't worry, they will eat. It just takes them a while to adjust and do it at their own pace. Okay, tip number 7. This totally took me by surprise, and one of the hardest things about motherhood for me was the worry and anxiety that comes with being a parent. It's just, for me anyway, it has been so stressful to be worrying about this human 24/7 because you love them so much, and I will think of any worst case scenario that will happen. I wish I had been a little more prepared for that. You really have to, have some positive self-talk and walk yourself off the ledge. For me, stuff like leaving him even for like 10 minutes to go get coffee was super hard, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I encourage you to really try to get out even when it feels like you can't. Also, you need to keep in mind that you can't protect your child from everything. You can do your very best as a parent, and obviously that's your job, but you cannot prevent everything. When Greyson was about 2 months old, he got a cough, and I was horrified. Like, I could not sleep at night because I was afraid that he was going to be so ill and that he had RSV, and it kept me up all night. But it's normal. Like, my mom would tell me, like, when you cough, it's because you're expelling, like, I'm not a doctor, but it's like you're expelling stuff out of your lungs, and it's normal. And we took him to the doctor. It was just a normal, like, cough, and he was totally fine. But those things that are totally normal for us in our life, when you have a baby, it's just like next level. Like, it heightens your anxiety so much, and that was something I was not necessarily prepared for in motherhood. One thing I like to keep in mind is I got this from taking care of babies, the same lady I was talking about with sleep training, is she always says, you can do hard things, your baby can do hard things. So even if something is stressful, I try to remember that I can do hard things, and he can also do hard things, and it's all gonna be okay. Number 8. I wish when I was pregnant I had done more research about Montessori parenting and Montessori toys / play. It's something I'm just kind of getting into, and I find it so interesting. I like a lot of their perspectives about parenting, and especially when it comes to toddlerhood and just promoting independence that makes children feel like they have agency and they're able to do things themselves. I really like that aspect of it. I'm not sure how I would feel in terms of sending him to a Montessori school. I'm not sure that I agree with the academic aspects, but again, I do need to do more research. But I wish I had known more about some of the play aspects and dove more into that. And I am still learning and I am still researching, but that is definitely something I would want to do more in the future. Number 9. I think this one is very important. If you are pregnant, or if you don't have kids yet and you're planning on trying to have kids, just keep in mind that you will never have alone time in the same way you did before kids. And that is a good thing and a bad thing. It's good that you're never alone and you have this little companion that loves you and you love them, and it's amazing. But on the other hand, you just do not get the same alone time ever. Even when you're out and you're, say getting your nails done or having some time to yourself, you're still constantly thinking of your little person and missing them. Even though you wanted a break, you're still missing them. And even when they're sleeping, like, part of your brain is always just still thinking about them. And kind of like I said, even though you want this break and you want this alone time, like, he or she still rules your world. You will get alone time and you will get to relax. It'll just never be the same as it was before. And I will guarantee, well, things might change as Grayson gets older, but I have yet to be bored. Like, the feeling of boredom, it does not exist anymore. Like, when you have free time, you need to maximize it to get stuff done, and it obviously leaves some time to relax and some time to spend with your partner or your friends, but you really have to maximize that free time, and I can't say I even know what boredom is anymore. My last tip number 10, I think it is really important to realize that parenting does not have to be black and white. These days in parenting, there's such a paradigm between all these different parenting choices, and everyone is so opinionated, and it's like breastfeeding or formula, sleep training or not sleep training. It's just super black and white, and it doesn't have to be that way. That's what I've learned. Like, I used to think I had to be a certain kind of parent and follow these like rules and stuff, but you can compromise. I breastfeed him most of the time, but when I'm at work or if he's still hungry after he's nursed for me and I don't have any more milk, we formula feed. It's not like he can only breastfeed or he can only formula. There's a happy medium there. We sleep trained him, but I still nurse him to sleep sometimes, like, and I still nurse him to sleep for his naps. We're not like, if he cries in the middle of the night, most likely I'm going to tend to him. I'm not able to be that militant sleep training person, and that's okay. We do what works for us. There are different ways to do it, but it doesn't mean that one way is good and one way is bad. And even if you do something one way in the beginning and then change your perspective on it later, that's also fine too. And I think that's so important to remember, that you can change your mind, you can change your perspective, you can do things one way and then do it another, and it is no big deal. So those are my top 10 things I wish I knew before I had Grayson, and I will keep in mind going into the future. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to see more videos like this. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I love talking to you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!